Okay, let's take a look at the paper portion of the course and the paper itself. I'm going to start by going to Modules. Down at the bottom of the course, there's a bottom of the page, there's a section called Term Paper. First thing in that is assignment information, including info about the term paper. I opened it, or if you click on it, you can open it up, download it, look at it, or just look at it without downloading it. I have it hidden just behind here. Let me walk through the paper. First of all, let me point out what else is here. There's something about the reading responses here that confirms what I said before. There's something about the forum participation, which I will say a little bit more. Actually, let me say something about forum participation right now. We have a discussion forum in the course. It's not worth a whole lot of points, and it's not particularly important to the course, but it kind of does fill one goal, one need, which I think is important, is important in a certain way. So this is the idea. In class, there's a lot of room for people to have discussions about a lot of different things. And that's great if you're the kind of person who thinks fast on your feet and you always have a lot to say. But there's some people who are very intelligent and very reflective, and they have a lot to say, but they never think of it while the conversation's going on. They always walk away later and say, I wish I'd thought of this at the time. So for those people, sometimes communicating and writing through a forum discussion is a much better way to do things, because it gives them a chance to reflect and think about what they want to say and say it just right. So I want to make sure that that's available in this course too. So I'm requiring everybody so we need a forum discussion on just anything that comes up. So what I'm going to do to get it started, though, is require each of you to post at least one thing in there. So sometime you should just post a question, a comment, anything you think of that has something to do with philosophy. It can be something that comes up in the course, something that one of the readings makes you think of. It can be something that we talk about in class and it just makes you think of something. I'll post something myself there just as an example, probably. And you should just put something in there, whatever you want to say. And then at least 4 times by the end of the semester, you need to respond substantively to somebody else's post. Now, the rules for all this are the same as the rules for discussion in class. You can't personally attack anybody. And you should, but apart from that, and you should be willing that anything you say, you shouldn't take offense if somebody else says to you, do you have a reason for thinking that? But apart from that, you can hold any view you want. You can take any opinion you want, even if it's something nobody else would agree with. I will sort of ask you to keep things in a philosophical vein. So ask questions not about the scientific fact of things or just that are completely, I'll give you examples as you go. If you ask something that I don't think is philosophical enough, I'll just sort of redirect the conversation afterwards in the forum. I'm going to contribute to the forum myself, just to sort of keep a conversation ongoing, so I may respond to some of the things you guys say. Sometimes I'll play devil's advocate. I'll make some point that I don't actually agree with just because I want to push you a little bit to think about stuff. So sometime in the next week, think about, I think your first forum post has to come in this first week. And the reason for that is just to make sure and get the discussions going. Once they're going, I find that then a lot of people tend to like to respond anyway after that. So that's that. Then there's a discussion thing on tests and in-class quizzes. I want to come down to the section on the philosophy paper, and let's talk about the paper. All right, you have a term paper to write. It only needs to be about 5 pages long. Now, first thing is that 5 pages is not set in stone. Some people write something that's like 10 pages long, and that's fine. I don't mind. Some people write things that's only 3 or 4 pages long. That's fine. If it's too short, you should ask yourself, have you done everything you're supposed to? Because if you shouldn't be able to do it really, really quickly. It should take you some time just to include everything I'm asking. But that's just to give you a ballpark estimate of what kind of length I'm talking about. I'm not really interested in how many words you have. I'm interested in what you say and whether you say it well. And padding it to make it longer won't make it worth any more points. So here's the thing. This is not a research paper. You're not going to go out and research several different sources and then decide which is the most credible and report them. It's not a summary of what other people have said. It's an argument paper. It's specifically a certain type of philosophy paper. So here's what you're going to do. First of all, you're going to be responding to another paper, which I will call the source paper. So the first thing you have to do is go find a philosophy paper that you're going to respond to. And that philosophy paper I'm calling the source paper as opposed to the term paper, which is what you're writing. And you're going to first of all look at that source paper and figure out what kind of argument it's making. You're going to find some claim that it makes and some argument that it makes for that claim. So maybe it's arguing that that democracy is a good form of government, and it makes that it gives several reasons for thinking that. then the claim or the art would be that democracy is a good form of government, and the argument it makes would be whatever reasons it gives for saying that democracy is a good form of government, philosophical reasons, presumably. It needs to be, we'll talk in a few minutes about where to find the paper, and that's the most important part. Okay, once you find the paper, you're going to need to read it carefully and understand what claim and argument it's really making. Ideally, you want a paper that you disagree with, not one you agree with, but one you disagree with. Because then what you're going to do is make an argument of your own in the opposite direction somehow, probably in the opposite direction. You're going to say, I don't think democracy is the best form of government, maybe because of this reason or whatever else. Now, sometimes you could actually agree with the paper as long as you say something else in your own argument that's different than what it said. You might say, I agree with his basic point, but I think there's a better argument to make. It should be made this way, or something like that. Once you make your own argument for it, and that's the crux of the paper, making a good argument of your own for the point you're making. You're not getting that from anywhere else. You're not researching it from other papers. You're not reading up on other stuff. You're just getting creative and thinking about it yourself. You write that up. Then there's a third step where you think about what are all the ways that somebody could possibly object to your argument, and then you say how you'd respond to those objections. So when you're done, there's sort of a four-part conversation that you're having with the reader. Part one is, this is what the source paper says. It says A, B, and C. And then part two will be, but I disagree. I think that's wrong, and here's what I think is the right answer, A, D, E, and F. And then part three will be, now some people might disagree with what I said by saying this. And part four would be, but I would answer them this way. So that's what you're looking to provide. Be sure you don't plagiarize. Anything you probably will only use one source paper or one reference at all. It'll be that source paper. Make sure you use MLA or APA style for citing it. Cite anything that you quote directly and anything that you paraphrase from it. Read the section in the textbook about writing philosophy papers. That will help a lot. And that's how that works. Now, the way the paper is going to be, the process for writing the paper is that you're going to give me a final result near the end of the final paper near the end of the semester. But before that, you're going to have 4 checkpoints that I'm going to have you turn in on Canvas. Each one is just going to be a sentence or two. So the first one, the first checkpoint, which is due almost right away, is you need to identify what source paper you're going to use. The second checkpoint will be you're going to tell me what you think its claim and argument is. The third checkpoint will be where you'll tell me what your argument's going to be. And the fourth one will be where you'll tell me what objection you think people might have and how you're going to respond. Each of those isn't going to be a whole portion of a paper or a whole draft or anything. It's just going to be probably a paragraph or so, sometimes just a sentence or two. And if you turn those in, you get easy, small amounts of points. You get like 1 point for the first one and 3 points for all the ones after that for turning them in on time. Again, any good faith effort counts. So if you say, here's what the guy's claim and argument is, and it's completely wrong, you can still get full credit for that. But what I will do is I'll give you responses, sometimes very detailed responses, sort of heading you off of the path if you're going the wrong direction. And that's why I want these checkpoints. They really are checkpoints. They're places for me to check whether you're going in the right direction, whether you've really misunderstood the paper or really misunderstood the assignment. So you need to pay close attention to whatever feedback I give you back. In some cases, I won't give you the full credit at first. I'll give you like 1 or 2 points of the whole thing, and then I will say you need to address this, and then you can respond back again with a revised version, and then you'll get full credit. So as long as you give me a good faith effort and respond to my feedback, you'll probably end up with all the points if those are on time. Regardless, then at the very end of the process, there's an optional draft. If you submit the draft, then I'll try to give you feedback for that. If you don't submit it, no points lost, but also no feedback from me. And then finally, you turn in the paper as the whole, which will have a summary of the relevant portion of the source paper, your claim, arguments for your claim, and then objection to your view and defense to that objection. There's a rubric down here where you can see how I grade it. Take a look at that later on so you have an idea what's going on. So that's how that works. If you go back to the, let's see, if you go back to the Canvas page, you can see that it has places where you turn in each of these checkpoints. Just even look at the front. Here's the first one, submit source paper, claim, and argument. Well, that's the second one, actually. So I'm asking there, what is the source paper's claim? What is the source paper's argument for that claim? Put it in numbered form. We'll talk about that as the class goes on. That will be one of the things you'll turn into me. Now, the very first thing you're turning into me as part of the checkpoints is being turned in next Monday. And I will be grading this, even though Professor Clements is teaching the class for now. And it's get source paper approved. So what you are doing for this is simply sending me the name of the source paper and the information on where to find it. And I am telling you, yes, that's okay, it's no, or no, it's not. So what we need to do now is talk about where the source paper can come from and what it can involve. So the first rule is actually, I'll do that in a separate video. So the next video I'll do will be about picking your source paper, and I'll suggest several different possibilities and give you sort of an idea for this. One thing I would like to suggest, you're supposed to post something in the forum at the end of this week. What you might very well want to do is find a source paper right away, find what question it's asking, and then post that question in the forum. Because you certainly are allowed to get some ideas for your own argument from what other people say. If you use them in your paper directly, you'll need to quote them and cite them so that I know you're not just plagiarizing. But you can certainly get ideas just from talking to people and from asking in the forum. So, for example, if you're studying, if your paper is on whether democracy is the best form of government, you might actually ask in the forum, what do you think? Is the democracy the best form of government? Why or why not? And see what people say about it. So that's one thing you might want to use for your forum question. All right, that'll close this out. After this, I'm going to do another video which talks about how to pick a source paper.